President Nicolas Maduro reiterated his condemnation of the human rights violations against Venezuelan migrants promoted by the far right. The White House confirmed the immediate imposition of unilateral tariffs, a protectionist measure that will affect prices for the U.S. working class. And the nations of China, Japan, and South Korea unite commercially in the face of the entry into force of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff measures. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. And the government of Venezuela remains firm in its commitment to the Venezuelan people to guarantee the safe and dignified return of migrants kidnapped by the United States through the plan for their return to their homeland. Let's see data about the development of the Back to the Homeland plan.
The first two flights from the United States arrived in Venezuela as part of the Return to the Homeland plan, returning 190 nationals to the country. Then, from Mexico, a plane arrived to Venezuelan soil on February 24th with 242 migrants on board. A second flight from Mexico arrived in Venezuela on March 20, with 311 Venezuelan migrants who returned to the country. Likewise, the Plan Vuelta a la Patria repatriated another 311 Venezuelan migrants from Honduras on March 23rd, and a second aircraft from Honduras arrived to Venezuelan territory one day later on March 24th, 2025, with 199 Venezuelan migrants on board. In turn, Venezuela received another 175 Venezuelan nationals from the United States in a plane that landed on March 30th. All the flights that have arrived in the country so far total more than 1,400 Venezuelan nationals repatriated as part of the government plan Vuelta a la Patria, promoted by President Nicolas Maduro to guarantee dignified return of all Venezuelan migrants to their country.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reiterated his condemnation of the human rights violations against Venezuelan migrants promoted by the far right and the governments of the United States and El Salvador. The Venezuelan president asserted that the far right is responsible for the wave of migration experienced by the country as a result of the economic sanctions requested by Maria Corina Machado and Juan Guaido in an attempt to destabilize the Venezuelan government. In this sense, he detailed that all the coercive measures implemented by the U.S. government against the nation only seek to undermine sovereignty and peace. He also highlighted that the transfer of migrants to El Salvador represents a serious violation of international laws. Moreover, the president applauded the federal decision blocking Trump's law to revoke more than 170,000 temporary protected status to nationals residing in the U.S.
Get out of the way, traitors to the homeland, those who have come out to support the violation of the human rights of the Venezuelan migrants, the kidnapping, the forced disappearance. Get out of the way, Sayona, Maria Machado. She is the one who planned all this. She came up with this to humiliate the people of Venezuela, as revenge, because she could not and will not be able to win. The relatives know it and all the migrants should know it. All this was proposed by Maria Machado to her godfather, Marco Rubio, the godfather of Maria Machado. All this was proposed and coordinated with the administration of the United States for aggression.
Brazil approved a new strategy to counter United States tariff threats. In the face of the tariff threat from the United States, the Economic Affairs Committee of the Brazilian Senate gave the go-ahead to a strategy that makes it possible to take measures against those countries that try to impose trade walls. According to teleSUR's Brazilian reporter Ignacio Lemos, this proposal also allows the South American giant to react to unilateral foreign decisions as violation and damage of trade agreements. The measure to impose tariffs will take effect as of April 2nd, so the Brazilian Commission approved the project on a preventive basis. Also in Brazil, activists rallied in Rio de Janeiro to remember the victims of the civil military dictatorship in commemoration of the anniversary of the coup of '64. The demonstration took place in front of a former building of the defunct Department of Political and Social Order used for illegal imprisonment and torture by the civil military dictatorship. Demonstrators carried photographs of the victims, as well as banners and posters recalling the actions of January 8, 2022, when supporters of Jair Bolsonaro invaded the Capitol building. The coup d'etat perpetrated by members of the armed forces in 1964 overthrew then-President João Goulart and ushered in a 21-year dictatorship that tortured and murdered thousands of people. And in Argentina, experts confirmed that no traces of alcohol or drugs were found in Diego Armando Maradona's body. Likewise, the scientific police expert Ezequiel Ventosi declared that no substances such as alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, or any other drug were found in Maradona's body, except for the medicines prescribed by the psychiatrist Agustina Kosachov. Dr. Alejandro Vega said that Maradona was oversized and had a long-standing ischemia due to the absence of irrigation and oxygen. Prosecutors Patricio Ferrari and Cosme Iribarren charged neurosurgeon Leopoldo Luque, psychiatrist Agustina Kosachov, psychologist Carlos Diaz with the crime of simple homicide with intentional infliction. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The White House confirmed the immediate imposition of unilateral tariffs, a protectionist measure that will affect prices for the U.S. working class. U.S. President Donald Trump justifies this policy with a nationalist discourse, while ignoring the global consequences of his trade war. Under the euphemism of Liberation Day, the United States government imposes reciprocal tariffs without considering their effect on dependent economies. This policy reflects Washington's hegemonic approach, which prioritizes coercion over multilateral dialogue. This unilateral measure, which will drive up prices, was defended by presidential spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt, with "it will work." And U.S. government lays off about 10,000 employees in the health and human service sector, as well as in the areas of food and drug administration, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and National Institutes of Health. According to local media, security guards prevented some employees from entering just a few hours after they received the notices, calling the jobs that sustain the country a bloated bureaucracy. The government dismissed high-level scientists who oversee public health, cancer research, and the approval of vaccines and drugs. In light of this, multiple platforms are asking how the United States will deal with health emergencies, such as the current measles outbreak and the spread of avian flu.
In the United States, there are specific programs that are being lost that are going to have a huge impact on specific populations. For example, the cuts to HIV funding. There also are cuts I don't understand, like taking away statisticians who are essential for analyzing the massive amounts of data CDC collects. They may continue to collect some data, but who's going to analyze it? There are administrative and technical staff, IT staff, who are critical to the functioning of the agency, who are going to go away, and your average scientist is not going to be able to fix your IT systems.
Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum achieved an 83% approval rating for her performance during the first 6 months of her administration. The monthly national survey of a local newspaper also indicates that at the economic level, the favorable opinion registered a majority of 68% in March, but represents its first drop in 4 months of increases, with 8 points less than the previous month. The survey indicates that regarding opinion on the handling of corruption, the favorable percentage dropped from 37% to 29%. Social programs promoted by Sheinbaum's government show the most positive aspect of our administration, with a rating of 79%. And the people of Nicaragua held caravans throughout the country to reaffirm their commitment to the defense of peace and the people's victories in the framework of the commemoration of the 2018 failed coup attempt in the country. On the slogan Victorious April, the Nicaraguan population, authorities of the National Police and Ministry of the Interior took to the streets across the nation together with the Sandinista Liberation Front to celebrate peace and express their support to the policies promoted by the Sandinista government for human development and to continue eradicating poverty. The celebration of the Nicaraguan people take place in salute to the month of April, date in which they commemorate the anniversary of the victory over the attempted coup d'etat in 2018. And Myanmar remembers more than 2,700 people killed in Friday's powerful earthquake. The country observed a minute's silence for the victims of the earthquake that even toppled buildings in Bangkok, 1,000 kilometers away. The homage is part of the national week of mourning declared until April 6 for loss of lives and damage. 4 days after the 7.7 magnitude quake, many people remain in the open because their houses collapsed or because they are afraid of possible aftershocks. The military government board said that at least 2,700 people have been killed, more than 4,500 injured, and more than 400 people are missing, but the toll is expected to rise further. Also in Myanmar, the death toll rose to 2,700 following the 7.7 magnitude earthquake that hit the Asian nation on March 28th. Authorities report that so far the total number of people directly affected by the earthquake is around 8,562,000 people, including more than 4,500 injured and more than 400 people missing. In this regard, the authorities made an urgent appeal to the international community, including the United Nations and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered directly to the earthquake victims. It should be noted that this event adds to the suffering already being endured by the population as part of the hostilities due to the civil conflict in the country following the military coup of 2021. We now have our second and final short break before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break and we're going to be right back. Welcome back. The nations of China, Japan, and South Korea unite commercially in the face of the entry into force of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff measures. According to international media, the trade minister of China, Japan, and South Korea have proposed a possible free trade agreement to counter Washington's high tariffs. The meeting agreed to strengthen cooperation in their supply chains and engage in direct dialogue on exports. This alliance was established during the trilateral meeting of Asian nations on March 30th, where they established measures to facilitate regional trade in Asia. And as part of the strengthening of bilateral relations between the two nations, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin after his meeting with his Russian counterpart. The Russian President asked Minister Wang Yi to convey friendly greetings to the Chinese President Xi Jinping and invited him to participate in the celebrations of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Second World War, which will take place in Moscow in May. During the conclave, Putin welcomed the way in which relations between Moscow and Beijing are developing and pointed out that the main purpose of this visit is to prepare for the future visit of the president of the Asian giant to Russia. The Chinese foreign minister, for his part, stressed that the cooperation between the two countries is not aimed at third countries and is not subject to external interference.
We want to express our satisfaction with the way our relations are developing, including with the direct contacts between our foreign ministries. I know that you have such a large, busy program for your visit, primarily relating to preparations for the arrival in Russia of the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping. We will prepare a good, full program for him.
And for his part, the Chinese foreign minister highlighted the excellent state of bilateral relations among the nations based on mutual political trust and the rejection of external interference.
Thanks to the care and promotion of the two heads of state, China-Russia political mutual trust has continued to deepen, strategic coordination has become more abundant, and pragmatic cooperation has continued to deepen, safeguarding the development and revitalization of the two great powers and also safeguarding our common interests in major international and regional affairs. China-Russia cooperation has never been directed against a third party and will never be subject to external interference. Our relations will not stand still, but will only become broader and broader. Our nation's friendship is not oriented towards the present, but towards the longer-term future.
And in this context, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov assured that the countries of the world consider Russian-Chinese relations as a stabilizing factor. The Russian Foreign Minister noted that he recognized the responsibility of Moscow and Beijing to maintain close coordination in the international arena in his opening speech during negotiations with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Lavrov assured that Moscow will agree with China on how to strengthen their relations as well as on further coordination in the UN and other multilateral platforms in order to build a fairer and more democratic multipolar world order. Also in this framework, China called on the United States to bet on denuclearization and to reduce the risks of threats and tensions in global conflicts. Foreign Minister Wang Yi spoke on the subject of national security and highlighted the role of nuclear weapons in the face of global conflicts. Furthermore, Wang Yi stated that Washington should stop insisting on ideas of nuclear alliances in the world and also stop deploying weapons on other borders. The brutal U.S. bombardments against the Yemeni civilian population with the support of the United Kingdom have not set back the operation of solidarity with Palestine. 3 attacks were reported by the Yemeni army against the aircraft carrier Truman, with cruise missiles, as confirmed by the spokesman of the Yemeni Armed Forces, Brigadier General Yahya Sadi. The operations against the nuclear aircraft carrier were carried out. Hours earlier, Washington forces, backed by the United Kingdom, attacked civilian areas in Hajjah, Hodeidah, and Sada, leaving several dead and wounded. The Pentagon troops besieged by the Houthi forces were forced to deploy a second aircraft carrier from the Asia-Pacific region. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.